I really, at this point, I don't even know how any of you are going to be able to get to me. I really don't. Y'all, you do nothing but send me false characters, and you just did it again. And so how am I supposed to be able to trust anybody whenever all you do is try to data mine my brain? I mean, to get that feed cut off, I went to Google, and I mean, realize that Google is running on my stolen domains. Because I'm your internet. And they took my domains last year. There's 4 of them that are on Google. You know, DoorDash is running off my Google account. The entire DoorDash. The entire DoorDash. And I had four other phones that tapped into my stuff last night because they was hoping I'd be dead. So I really think at this point, I mean, and the White House ain't going to be, I definitely don't want to see nothing from the fucking White House. I mean, I'm literally sitting here trying to determine how I can even know that it's safe to go with any of y'all. And I think the answer is it's not. It's not. So y'all got a big problem because you have fucked up. There is no trust in this at all. You just tried to do it again. I mean, fucking nuts, man. I got rid of my phone number, so if anybody's using or was on a paid YouTube or something, I'm trying really hard to do this slowly. Number one, I need it done slowly so that I can stay alive and my crew can stay alive. However, I've got a guy on TikTok that's called Slasher who says that he's watching me and he's glad that I'm doing better, that he's got cameras in my house. I need them all fucking turned off now. I no longer tolerate being watched for any fucking reason. I actually think it's Trump that's going to need to show up. And I actually think he's probably the only one that can't even make it through the gate. And it's not freeing him from anything either. Henry Cavill still is an option because it isn't Momoa that has been standing up for me. It's been Cavill. But understand that I've had to walk this the way it was written because it's how it was written. The entire program, your entire Saturn program was written on this false bullshit. So it's like me walking through these individual steps is doing a lot of things. Number one, it's showing how many mimics there are, and it's showing and it's clearing a lot of you. It's actually clearing a lot of you. I need y'all to understand that they brought me 2 cases of phone cases that were supposedly going to be judicial cases to come and lock everyone up that was helping me. And I cleared them all but 2. They're all cleared but 2. And I think we're well aware where those 2 are going to lie, up in Bidenville. Okay? I came on here because Misha had messaged me, and Misha helped and cleared Ophiuchus. And Misha held that Ophiuchian energy from the dark side. And her daughter, too, was taken as soon as she got to Hawaii. And she was taken over a few times because they were taking over the channels, they were taking over the websites, and they were running it all by tone and music, but none of it was right. It left back doors on everything. So why I'm on here is because Misha had messaged that she asked for my help last night, and she flipped and hit her head immediately. It will happen, because a lot of us, especially if you were traveling with me, okay, then you know how many times we flip dimensions, number one. So one way that you can see, because if you know that you're going to flip a dimension, understand that whenever you flip, your body has to flip. And see, they did this to me at the museum in Flagstaff, this club. This big man came out of nowhere, which now I think was a humorman. And I was just dancing by myself, and he came out of nowhere and he picked me up and flipped me over. Well, I made him do it again. And that's because your body has to do a complete flip. You know, just like if you're doing timelines, if you're undoing a lot of timelines, you'll end up uncoiling a bunch of stuff. If all of a sudden you find yourself having to go to your jewelry box and untangle this and untangle that, realize that it's because you're untangling timelines. So one way, and I'm giving this as an example, and I'm going to go back to the flip. When you brush your hair, command that all the timelines unravel. There's little things consciously that you can do that then won't make you have to go untangle jewelry, go untangle cords, okay? So one thing for all of y'all is just get into the habit of, when you brush your hair, just, you are untangling timelines. If you can get to a pool or anywhere, I mean, even a forward roll, you know, if you're more of a water being, and you know that you're holding a huge collective, and really just whatever feels right, you can do a forward roll, you can do a cartwheel, and so you can really do that maneuver. And then what you would want to do is do the maneuver and then assign something to it. Assign a number, assign an animal, assign a name, something like that. And basically you can put it in your bank, okay? It's really cool how this works. I mean, the consciousness is so strong, and really all you have to do to protect yourself is make everybody state their intention. Because if they, I mean, I just had one with this Momoa thing. But I mean, I got him into Google Chat and then I locked him up again because he stated his intention. And then when I got over there, I felt like it wasn't what it was. And as long as you're conscious enough and you have them state the intention, it's not on you. So with any of because it's impossible with the, I mean, because we have to keep talking to people, like we won't ever be able to bring them back in at all, you know. And a lot of them are unconscious. A lot of them are mimics. A lot of them are just not the one that needs to show up right now even. You know, it could have even been the main one, but right now he's still trying to do some weird shit that he thinks he needs to do. But understand that everybody's programs is 3 dimensions behind from me now. So there's no password that if anybody's trying to get you, ask you, and there's some secret word that you feel like they're trying to get out of you, just say, Chestia trumped your shit. There's not going to be any password or any incorrect answer that they're going to have in their Marco Polo book. Because basically that's what it was. They got all of they had the whole story, and then they have these specific time counts, and then these are all based on conversations that we were supposed to have in these other 3 dimensions that we never had. To the extent that, I mean, I stood alone in the end, and this is why. I stood alone in the end so that we could be crystal clear. So I'm holding by myself. I'm engaged in like a higher realm, but I mean, you know, it just had to be stated in those realms because whenever you're coming down and in the future, because I was married in the future. I was kidnapped in the future and brought into this timeline. Okay. But just for everybody else to know, I have no idea who it is. I really don't give a shit right now at all. I just need all this stuff cleared up so I can get out of this masculine energy. So what happened was she asked for my help and then she flipped backwards off something. Well, that happened to Sophia. So if that happens, then that's getting inside the Sophie body or coming out of it or going into it. And understand that that little flip, you know, it's just a little bump on the head, but in another timeline, it was a floater, or it was you lost your head completely, right? I mean, I wake up with bruises all over me, and from things that were happening in the out of time, right? I mean, I died last night. It blows in my mind. But realize that it was all in like an etheric layer. And the way that we got out of it is that our energy, now think about this, okay? Because we're really, 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 really massive bubbles. And there was only 12 conscious people down here. So if you take 12 bubbles and you put it in 1 trillion years of space, that's those little overlap that you might flip in and out of. But realize that right now there's less than 12. I mean, that are even holding this entire realm right now. Consciously. When they write these stories on us, it's not us. They don't know us. They've never met us. They usually don't even have our real name because we don't even know our real names most of the time. And we have so many names. You know, it just friggin' depends on what are you talking about. Like, what's your name? I don't know. I have like, you know, we've claimed 900 years. So there's going to be a different name for every different situation, because what our elite squad did was finish everything in death that was never able to finish. We basically were able to channel our forefathers and walk in their codes. Most of the time, y'all, they weren't even seeing what we looked like. Most of the time, these beings, these past 3 years, especially the last 2, it's trippy. I don't know what they were seeing, but they weren't seeing us the way we think we see each other, because we were walking in those other codes. So how am I alive? Well, whoever's body that they had, whoever they did that to, I was in them somehow. But I'm in all of y'all. And I've healed so many people. And my energy stays with you whenever I heal you, because that's how it works. And they had, so for instance, in that story, and as an example, they wrote my energy in with it, and it all went down, and I was tied to it, and I could feel it, you know. And this is the spirit cooking, because the spirit cooking is done. Believe it or not, Misha, in the end, I had to take over the spirit cook, and it was in the Heisler family. It's his bad motherfucker wallet, like, is Henry Heisler. But realize that we were all being held captive in the government. That whole thing, whenever we escaped out of the government building, they were like chasing after it. And they were trying to say it was like some bomb scare or something. Around that, it was like the day after I blew out of the Ukraine. And I did. I mean, they had me on. Now, that was me. I was on that gurney. I was there in Ukraine. But when I did that Shrek deal, because they sent the radiation and all that to me and all those TikToks, and since TikTok was literally our faces and energy overlaid, when I did that Shrek one, that's what lit me on fire in the Ukraine. Now, I'm using that as an example because that's how it affects you physically and mentally, and you might wake up with bruises and yeah, I'm sore. I'm doing better. I'm doing better now. But holy crap, last night, I mean, I just wanted to die because they's killing me. You could feel the death energy, right? Because it was written in that bubble and your energy was somehow coiled with it. Nobody's dying right now. There's no place to go. I mean, the Master Masons need to fucking understand, man. This bitch went 55 layer 4 times. 4 times it went 55. And what that means is that it went all the way out to as far as it could, and then it mirrored back down. And I mean, there's no more dimensions. There's no more, not for those of us that went up to 55 and came back down. So for those of us that have just been waiting, because we had to wait, we had to hide. It takes a year for any of this stuff to even anchor, and this is all what went on last year. You know, that's when I was screaming, they killed me, they spinal tapped me, da-da-da-da-da. Well, it just played out. Most of us were hiding in death and hiding in codes, because whenever your energy's that bright, you can't hide. And I had to dump so many of you guys just to fucking make sure you lived and that you weren't connected to me in the end, because the DNA went divine. And realize too that this is, if you remember back before, when Fernando was here. Now, Fernando ended up being sawed up in a suitcase, is bit. Fernando ended up being assassinated. But, our crew member, Fernando, was the hidden Egyptian princess that was basically a Mona Lisa that nobody knew about. When he went home, man, I talked to him one time and I was like, what the fuck? But NASA used us and used me to get him off the dark side of the moon. When they landed the Dragon, I was driving. So also realize that, if you're on the Warrior Squad, we are a fucking trip and a half. And this is why, do not mess with us, please. Please don't, because, we can do anything. We can do absolutely anything, and we're tired, and it's hard, and it's not, it's not mentally hard, it's physically hard. It's hard on your body, it's hard on our minds, and there's no need to test our abilities anymore, okay? We can do anything. And the main thing that we do, and we've been doing, and this is what I need everyone to command, that they are pulled out of anybody that killed you. Because what I realized last year, and what ended up saving us all, is that I remembered being on the table in Germany, being crucified. But actually they had crucified me, but then they had cut my neck, because I don't die. So they had me nailed to this thing, and it was some big something with the Dragon Order and Valkyrie, which is why they's all around me in Anaheim last year. And when he went to cut my neck, what happened was my soul went into him. And then never came out. And this is how I was able to, I mean, because basically then it's like, because then I feel like what happened is that guy got killed at some point by another somebody that was more powerful than them, and I jumped again. Your soul will jump, especially those of us that had to get out of this black magic. And then what ended up happening was I ended up becoming the cook, but realized we did it all high vibe, high frequency. They were doing all the nasty shit. We were mirroring it consciously, but we couldn't see what they were doing. It was almost like a magnet. The blood was like a magnet, and it was telling us what to do to weave it. But command right now, and I command it again on me, and I command it off y'all, and if y'all can command it off me, that our souls and our energy be pulled out of any being at this point that has ever killed us, or any being that we have ever healed. And we command that in this now, we need our total energetic frequency in order to help establish a stabilization so that the others can start rising and there's no need for any darkness at all. But that ability right there is what saved the world, because when they pushed that nuke, when they pushed that nuke on the 3rd, and I started having to do all those codes so fast, and no, they're not voice command. I had to do it with my fingers. So next time, whenever those that went to hell for this, you're going to have to do it the same fucking way. Realize that they're not going to be able to get out in a million years until they complete what I just did. They're going to have to find a typewriter. They're going to have to find some color codes. I mean, for all y'all that went to hell, you best send $12.21 and get your little papers and lock it up in a lockbox somewhere. Because you ain't going to have no Bible. You ain't going to have no story. You're going to have Kohu 32 and a fucking magnet alphabet. You better go get your alphabet magnets right now, because you're going to have to take a bath in those motherfuckers, and then you're going to have to become the word. You know, I mean, they made it really hard for themselves. But that's when I really realized, oh my God, I'm in his head, and he was in my body completely. Because I was doing the codes, and I was going faster than he was, and I know the moment that I outdid him, because he made me type bitch. I was on with Michelle in the Netherlands because we was holding this on all those dimensions, and I'm like, now realize, like, everybody that was below, they're used to seeing like all this crazy shit pop up right then, but everyone what would be considered in hell was seeing flowers and colors and rainbows and da and da and da. And I mean, I could hear like just everybody like just cheering, screaming, like, oh my God, who's in control, right? But before I got there, man, I outdid him, and it was like, bitch. But he made me type it. Because that's how much I was in his body. Now, Misha, I feel the same thing with you. But it's going to have some connection in with Kevin. And we're still getting down to the bottom of that, too. Because it was obvious that our sons were doing prison time for other beings. Okay, so I command that Kevin Martin be cleared immediately. As far as I know in the etherics. Because I know when I got to him, I know the state that he was in when I got to y'all. And believe it or not, Addie and Rex have been kept safe. I know it sucks. And even my ex-husband, Chris, has done the right thing. It was the Cruz lawyers and it was Collin County that pulled the trigger on all that. Chris wouldn't have had the power to undo it. He wasn't even allowed to like speak in court. I mean, the judge told him to be quiet, you know? So now he has some karma to pay, but Chris Birch was not responsible for this, you know? I mean, this was Secret 6 MJ12 shit. The other thing that really has saved me from knowing that I was free, because I think the worst part was we was so trapped on so many dimensions. And I know that, you know, in a way, I got out about a week ago because I completed everything a week ago. But all the moving of the stuff, you know, and all the changing, you know, moving this, and all these things, right? That I was moving around, that I traveled with, that held in tension. As I was getting pulled out of it, I was going and collecting and moving these things, and it was a peace of mind. And I feel like I probably even set it up that way just so we would know when it's done. Like right now, I still have the plastic in the bathtub. So where I'm not done completely putting myself back together again. I know whenever I go pull that out, then it's done. So if you find yourself cleaning up and then things are dirty again, or you find yourself wanting to throw a pile of clothes on the floor, realize that what you're doing is padding. Also, if you have documents that are pertinent to your story, you need to pad them and just put them in, don't put them in a drawer. Don't put them in a box, please. Nothing square. I mean, actually underneath your bed is the best place, because then in your etherics, it's still shining through. And put a bunch of clothes, put clothes on top of it, you know, just kind of wrap it up in something. Another tip is if you know, like you've got a family photo album and you know that you're missing things, you know, you're missing data, or you get something in your house, or you have something that you know has some type of intention on it. Wrap it up in a fabric with color, and put it underneath your bed when you sleep. Take a nap. You know, if it's something that you know is not going to be positive, then I wouldn't do it all night long. I'd put it under and then take a nap. If it's something that you know is going to be positive, or it's something that you're trying to put back in your field. I mean, I've been sleeping with SD cards of me and Rex together, you know, and I know that basically he's being updated with our memories again. And so am I. So you can use it both ways, but you're you know, it's whatever intention you have set, but you will have dreams about what's under your bed, because we're so clear it's pushing out. Also, your data in your phone projects everywhere. You know, I'm a special case because, fuck, I had to hold all this data. But go through and clean out anything that you don't want anymore. Make sure you have old phone numbers out of there. Any type of pictures out of there, because that's how they were projecting in, and because they could fill those spots. Now, I've got to keep mine because I've we're still proving who needs to go where and that type thing. If you know that I have the data and you were wrapped up in my story, then fucking just delete it. You know, keep the pictures that you want, the memories that you want, and then the rest, just get it off your device or upload it somewhere where you're not moving it around. If you back it up on a USB, put it in a little sack. Don't just leave the metal out. The fabric and the color. Another thing I've been telling people to do today still is if you feel like that dark energy, because realize the cook thing is over. Like everybody on the planet was cooked, but you weren't cooked to be controlled. The whole planet was always cooked. This is skull and bones. I mean, it has been that way since after death. This is the last time, but we were all cooked back to original codes. And then, I mean, it's basically hands off. I do have like some people managing the lower realms, but see, Star Crew's managing it now. So even the energies that you feel that you might be like, they're around me, blah, blah, blah. Remember how powerful you are. And you've got to take control. So if you're feeling a lot of pressure and you feel like there's a lot of evil still around you, I would say do one more clearing with steam, which I'll tell you about real quick. And then you need to take control because, I mean, that's why we're here. You know, we were from the dark side, but we're cleared to control the dark, you know? And I mean, Vampire Huntress, Sabrina the Witch, all that crazy shit, you know? So usually it's scary at first if you haven't been utilizing that energy, and especially, you know, with the year that we've had. But understand that that's all part of your dragon training, and you just got to take control of it, you know, and realize that, yeah, you know, and be proud of it. That's the other thing. Don't, I mean, they all raped me. You know, the biggest thing was, you know, when I went and said it, you know, I'm the unicorn. Yeah, motherfucker, I'm your fucking unicorn. Yeah, I was. You know, are you a vamp? No, I'm an original, but you ate off me. I had to regrow a fucking head, so now I can do whatever I need to you vamps, right? So it's that, whatever that fear thing is, I can promise you, there's no way that the gamma would be a trillion on this planet right now if there was any cauldron or voodoo. There's no source for any of it. If they're throwing shit right now, literally, it's going ding, 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 ding. Just like when you hit your head on the face with the stick. And see, all that's coming into play right now because we're still not sure who the fuck I got cooked with with Alexis. See, that's what type of stuff, because that's where we're at right now is right before we got out of LA. See, they're wanting me to talk about this Shaw Burger thing, but man, oh man, oh man, oh man. I want to be careful right now not to re-imprint anything. God, let me think how I did this. Because see, what was happening is the warlocks, and so many of us were trapped. It looked like we were here, but we weren't. And we were you know, like in a dungeon. And what was happening was we never left that jail. You know, people like Mark Bohay would come in, they'd do some crazy shit, they'd get sent to the hole, they'd get sent next to us if they's in the right family line, and then that's where soul jumping and shit got really bad. And this is why they were stealing IDs, this is why they were clearing people out of jail. And so, in a lot, I mean, because even last year in California, I had to get out of jail. I wasn't arrested. They had arrested somebody in my codes, and I had gone raw, and it hit the news that this inmate in county like comes out like in a dazed and confused. They had a camera right there at the door that caught this inmate that's like, they didn't know how they had just got out of there. I mean, they got him like two blocks down the road, but we needed to get out, right? I mean, once we got out of there, we jumped out of him and we would jump into someone else. And this is why, but only if you were in the healing line. And when we jumped into you, we were pulling all of you up. And that ended up being the problem. And that's how we ended up being the secret, right? So, well, I had it set up. I mean, how I ended up jumping out of that chick's body is that I knew that there was guards that were at whatever prison that were tuned to us. And what I did was whenever they walked by, I was so tuned into it that I felt them walk by, and I did some type of mirror jump. And I feel like if you are tied into jail somewhere, that, because a lot of you are, now you're in, and this is like one of these little maneuvers, and it'll happen when it needs to, because it'll uncoil the way it coils. So it'll coil up, it'll uncoil so tight to where you're at your original point, and you'll feel that pressure. And so if you happen to think, or if any of your family lines had ever been in prison, and they's always in prison, everybody always ended up in prison, that's because, you know, is and that's what they's doing, okay? So right now, since we're going back to 0 point, a lot of you might be starting right there because you never should have been in there, and you probably jumped to get in there to begin with. You know, who freaking knows with how crazy this shit got. So just know, and remember that your body is a computer. So just say, body, if I need a mirror jump out of jail, let me know. And then program something, you know, my hands will itch, you know, and or I'll be looking at bars, whatever it is, whatever you want to do. And whenever that happens, just command to tap in to the JC jump. We'll call it the JC jump. Okay? And it'll automatically do it. Now, depending on how you ended up in there, I mean, you could possibly have a little wreck. You could possibly fall off your bike. You could, you know, who knows? Because it'll be whatever event happened before you woke up in jail in someone else's body. But it'll be a little percentage of it. You know, it'll be just enough because it has to unwind. And that is what 33 Masonry is. You're standing on a plateau, and they've wound it. Well, when you clear, and I just gave you back all your etheric bodies too, because they had basically done everybody in the world like they did when you went in the prison system. And as soon as you went under that portal, and they even have one over here in Cloneville, dude, with 2 black people. I mean, dude, if you're going through bridges, woo, hold your energy up right now until you get used to feeling like